Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Well, we have got a lot to cover today. We have quite literally the world in flames as we speak, and we're going to try to get to the battlefield Ethiopia coverage, and then we'll migrate over to other coverages as well, and some other videos that we'll do. But first, today we're having a close look at the ongoing civil war taking place inside of the former state of Ethiopia. And it would appear, as we speak, that the despotic regime of Eritrea, again, one of the most despotic regimes in the entire planet, rivaling even that of North Korea, in conjunction with its key ally in the Abiy Ahmed regime of the former state of Ethiopia, looks to, right now as we speak, attack and destroy the Tigray region. That is what is happening right now. We have seen attempts by the joint forces of the despotic regime of Eritrea and the Abiy Ahmed regime to besiege Tigray and eliminate all sources of food and other necessities of life from going into Tigray. But now, as we speak, we are seeing a offensive operation by both the Eritrean army and the Abiy regime in the former state of Ethiopia, continuing to attack the Tigray region. So we'll start off first, and we'll kind of start in the southeast quadrant, south of Alamata, south of Kobo. Fighting is continuing. The Tigrayan Defense Forces are continuing to make progress in the direction of Waldea. This is the theater of war right now, where the Tigrayan Defense Forces are having the most success right now in the ongoing fighting. Obviously, they have captured Kobo Radet, and they are now, right now as we speak, besieging or attempting to besiege the city of Waldea, the key city of Waldea. We do know that thousands of Abiy loyalist forces and Amhara regional paramilitary forces have surrendered in the ongoing fighting that is continuing to take place in this area of the ongoing war. And right now, we would say at this point, the Tigrayan Defense Forces have the advantage and have the initiative in the ongoing battles that are taking place both near Waldea and further to the west near Lalibela and Sokoto. It would appear that the Tigrayan Defense Forces are setting up defensive positions to the east and northeast of Lalibela and to the northeast and east of Sokoto to prevent an Abiy loyalist attack in the direction of Samre and towards Koram and Alamata, and to an attempt to cut off, just in case they try to attempt to cut off the main sources of supply for the Tigrayan Defense Forces as they continue to battle their way south towards Waldea. Now, could we see the Tigrayan Defense Forces possibly pivot towards a defensive strategy because of what is happening in other parts of the country? And that does remain a possibility as we see more and more intense fighting and more military activity taking place, especially on the part of Eritrea as they have entered this conflict themselves. If we go further to the north and we look at Mekelle, we do know that Tigrayan Defense Forces have moved into and positioned forces just inside of the Afar region. These forces are a blocking force designed to prevent the small contingent of Eritrean army personnel that have moved into the Afar region and could threaten an attack from the east upon Mekelle. So the TDF obviously is watching both to the east. That host of Eritrean military units that have entered the Afar region, and then from the southwest as well, is of a concern because there are continued movements of Abiy loyalist forces within the vicinity of Sokoto, and also in the direction towards Samre as well. But this is very, very hilly, mountainous terrain and would pose a significant obstacle for Abiy loyalist forces if they were to attempt a move towards Samre, which again is in this area right here. I'll kind of zoom in where you, the viewer, can kind of see the city of Samre, and it would be an objective or a possible objective of the Abiy loyalist forces if they were to invade southeastern Tigray, which is possible at this point. Now, in other news, we continue to see very heavy fighting taking place on the Shiraro front. It is reported that the city of Shiraro has fallen to a joint force of Abiy loyalists and Eritrean army personnel. Now, with that being said, this is very, very flat land. The Tigrayan Defense Forces, in all probability, and I talked about this before, were never going to attempt a large-scale military operation to prevent the fall of Shiraro. In this area of the conflict zone, the Eritrean army has an advantage in terms of heavy artillery, mechanization, tanks, armored fighting vehicles, and obviously even aircraft. And given such the flatness of the land, it would be very, very difficult for the Tigrayan Defense Forces to mount a successful defensive operation in this area. So it would seem prudent that the TDF would withdraw to the east and southeast in order to better shore up its defensive preparations, especially in some of this rugged land that exists. In other news, we have received reports that the Eritrean army, in conjunction with the Abiy loyalists, are now making an effort towards the city of Shire. This is a very important strategic city. This would be the gateway from the westerly approach eastward towards some of the larger cities in the Tigray region, such as Aksum, Adwa, Adigrat. And the fall of Shire would be a significant loss for the Tigrayan Defense Forces. Now, with that being said, as you approach Shire, it is relatively flat, but then when you get to the east of Shire, this is where it starts to be, it gets very, very hilly. And then obviously you have the main A2 highway that runs east, or from west to east towards some of these other larger cities. And we can expect at some point that if in fact Shiraro has fallen, if we can absolutely confirm that, we could see continued movement towards Shire by the Abiy loyalist and Eritrean army. And what I'll do here real quick is to convert it over to roads, where you, the viewer, can see exactly what I'm talking about in terms of the gateway along the B30 towards other Tigray cities. And again, you have Shiraro up here, and we could expect the Eritrean army and the Abiy loyalist contingents that were flown in and transported into the Eritrea, the despotic state of Eritrea, to attack in a southeasterly direction towards Shire. But again, as you look both to the east and west of Shire, very rugged mountainous areas that the Abiy loyalist formations and the Eritrean army would have to overcome in an effort to advance upon Shire. Now, if Shire were to fall, obviously they would then control the main B30 route towards the east, as I just talked about. But that would again become very, very difficult to move along the B30 highway through the northern Tigray region, facing just monolithic terrain features that could be defended by the Tigrayan Defense Forces as you look here as we continue to move from west to east. And this is what happened in the prior conflict when the Eritrean army and the B loyalist forces successfully invaded the Tigray region the first time. And then once the Tigray region was fully mobilized, those forces, the B loyalist forces, were then evicted from the Tigray region. So again, right now as we speak, the Tigrayan Defense Forces are fully mobilized. So the idea that the Abiy loyalist and the Eritrean army would have the same sort of rapid success that it had in late 2020 is probably not going to be the case in this current conflict. Again, you're probably looking at upwards to 200,000 plus troops that have been mobilized by the Tigrayan Defense Forces, whereas before, in the earlier campaign, the Tigrayan Defense Forces was around 9,000 personnel at the start of the campaign, and then finally fully mobilized to that 200,000 personnel, which were able to then evict the Abiy loyalists and the Eritrean army from the Tigray region. But we're watching very, very closely what is happening near Shiraro. Shiraro, we did anticipate that the Eritrean army and the Abiy loyalist forces would find success in quite possibly taking control of the city due to the flatness of the terrain around Shiraro and in Shiraro. But as they move east and they continue to gravitate towards Shire, the situation starts to change. And this is where it's going to become much, much more difficult for those elements of the Eritrean army and the Abiy loyalist forces to fight in this sort of terrain with its mechanized and motorized forces. So we'll have to watch this again very, very closely. There's mixed reports on whether the Eritrean army has moved towards Shire. Last reports indicate that there has been battles to the north west of Shiraro near Adi Daro, and this is this town here. Now again, as we talked about with Shiraro, very, very flat, so much, much easier for the Eritrean army to move and maneuver towards the town of Adi Daro. Now, once they're past Adi Daro, things start to change, and you start to see it become much more hilly and, again, more advantageous for the Tigrayan Defense Forces to conduct defensive operations against the Eritrean army. If we look this would be the main route that they would be taking to the north of Shire. And again, it gets rather hilly to the west of some of the main and east of the main roadways, but still not the same types of very hilly mountainous environment that the Tigrayan Defense Forces do best in, such as the central Tigray region, where it gets very, very, very hilly and mountainous. And this is the region here, the Tembian region, ultimately, where the Abiy loyalist forces and the Eritrean army finally met its fate, and it was a disaster for them to conduct military operations in this very, very mountainous, rugged region. But that's where we stand today, and we're going to continue to monitor, report, and watch what's going on. So just, again, quick synopsis. Again, heavy fighting continues to take place towards Weldia. The Tigrayan Defense Forces are achieving success near Weldia in this this southeastern quadrant of the theater of war. We're continuing to watch very closely what is happening with some of the movements of Eritrean forces to the east of Mekelle and to the southwest near Sokoto and to the north of Sokoto in the direction of Samre. And then, of course, we're watching very, very closely what is happening near Shire, especially to the north of Shire near Adi Daro. And then obviously initial reports are coming in that the Eritrean military in conjunction with the B Loyalist forces, have taken control of Shiraro as we speak. But again, very, very flat land and not conducive to the types of operations that the TDF normally utilize. And then also to the north of Adwa and to the north of Adigrat, we are watching these main highways as well, as these could be main entry points for the Eritrean army to also enter the Tigray region through Rama, and then head south towards Adwa, and then obviously along the B20 highway north of Adigrat is also, and this becomes very, very mountainous and would be a definite challenge for those Eritrean and B Loyalist army units to attack the Tigray region. But we're going to continue to monitor, report, and bring you more content as we get it. As we get more information, we will, of course, report it. So again, thanks for joining us today, and more to come. And as always, have a good day.